Welcome to our greatest American art form.
The mixtape.
Now, for all of you kids who don't know,
Traditionally, a mixtape is a homemade compilation of media from multiple sources, recorded into a medium like a CD, a VHS, or cassette tape.
what we are presenting to you here is something we call Mixtape Therapy,
A collection of authentic conversations,
often wacky conversations,
inspired by what inspires us.
except instead of a cassette tape, we are bringing you a podcast
So just as you might share a mixtape, we share these conversations with you.
in the hopes that they spark a similar connection to the good old mixtape. Now,
Join us for a little
for some Mixtape Therapy.
But you had to go. I know, I know, I know. Like a wave that crashed and melted on the shore. Not even the burnouts are out here anymore. And you had to go. I know, I know, I know.
Hi, Scottie.
Hey, what's up?
What's up, dude? Are you feeling any better?
I'm still a little congested, but also, I just listened to that song, the song that we're gonna do right before we got on, and I started crying. So,
I'm so excited to talk to you about it. Especially because,
okay,
wait, real quick, wasn't one of our, if not our first, it was definitely one of our first, it was our very first song was Phoebe Bridgers.
yes,
Amazing. So full circle moment. I'm
yeah.
excited.
So you go. So like I brought this to you, but you go.
Well, and I haven't been keeping up with Phoebe Bridgers. Now I got to go down a rabbit hole and listen to all of her most recent music. Um, I'm not gonna lie. I mean, it was beautiful. Nothing super specific came to mind other than the imagery was like very evocative. And just picturing kind of driving through the wastelands of Texas, which is an experience that I have, right, going past slaughterhouses. And you just, when you enter those certain places in Texas where it's like, yeah, there's like a lot of these fear the Lord billboards and things like that. But I'm not gonna lie, Scottie, I more was like, I'm really curious what this brought up for Scottie, because for me it was just sort of an atmospheric piece, like just sort of a vibe. It was melancholy. It was a little bit I mean, it's quite literally called I know the end. I know how this ends. I know the end. So it seemed very like end of the world apocalyptic. Um those are my initial thoughts, but I'm eager to hear why you brought this song forward and what it brought up for you.
Okay, before I tell you though, what what's the story that like played out in your mind through the song and what she said? Did any kind of story play forward of like you imagined her doing blank or feeling blank?
I mean, it seemed obviously it says, I have to go, you have to go. It definitely, I mean, it seemed like a breakup in many different ways. Um, and yeah, I think that's all I really got. I'm sorry, I should have done more homework with it. I was more just listening to it and feeling into the emotions of it. But yeah, it seemed like this is a relationship that has to end. There's something about it that, yeah, she's saying, I mean, she keeps repeating, I know, like, I know this needs to end, or you need to go, I need to go.
Okay, so
Yes.
how the song came to me is I've been watching that show Shrinking. We kind of talked about it a little
Mhm.
bit, right? And I think it's like the first or second episode. Harrison Ford's character
Mhm.
tells Jason Siegel, how you say it, whatever.
Siegel, yeah.
It tells his character find a song and just listen to it on repeat for like 15 minutes and just cry.
I
That
thought you told
that's
that to the daughter.
Well, no, but or the daughter tells it to him, but somehow because then, he's listening to this song and he's riding on his bicycle and he's crying. And then some lady opens the car door and he hits the car door and she goes, "How are you already crying?"
Wait, he's listening to this song?
This song.
Oh, amazing. Okay, that's so funny because I tell clients that all the time. And maybe I'm remembering it incorrectly, but it's grief for the length of one song. It's like just
Yeah,
one song in grief, right? Because you don't want to hold it when in Shrinking, they've lost a wife slash a mother. And it's too overwhelming to just be in the grief all the time. And simultaneously, you don't want to just shove that down and not feel it at all. And so the Harrison Ford's compromise is take grief for the length of one song, like feel your feelings completely. And I tell clients that all the time because it's like this tangible, bite-sized chunk of grief that can actually fit into your life without totally destroying you.
well, is it you're allowing yourself to grieve? Is that as simple as that?
Yeah, well, and I've been thinking about this a fair amount actually because I often ask clients when they're coming to me feeling depressed, low energy, and they've experienced some massive loss or grief, but they're not really talking about that. They're not talking about the loss or the grief. They're kind of just talking about how they feel shitty and like don't have a lot of interest in doing things and are tired and um like they're not bringing the grief to the session. They're just kind of talking about how they don't feel well. And so what I often ask is, have you given yourself time or space to grieve this thing? And they ask me, like, what does that even mean? Like, what does it mean to give yourself time and space to grieve? And on my first response is like, yeah, that's a really overwhelming thing. And I don't have like the perfect answer, but I have these little ideas, right? I have these little notions of like, and they sound cheesy or they sound weird. It's like, well, draw yourself a bath and listen to some sad music and like actually let yourself cry. But it's like find some way to section off this time and space. Which to them either sounds cheesy or they just say like, well, I don't want to do it. I don't want to enter into this grief space where I could cry because I don't think I'd ever stop, which is a common fear. People think like, oh, if I start crying, if I start feeling this, I'm never going to stop feeling it, which I get it, right? Because it's like sometimes the grief is so fucking massive that it really feels like if I touch it, it's going to burn me, it's going to kill me. When we know it's the opposite, which is if you actually let yourself feel it, yeah, it's intense and it sucks. But after having felt it and gone through it, it's going to be so much better. You're actually going to feel more alive if you let yourself feel whatever it is that's going on.
Can you imagine if you met somebody and they were just constantly crying and then like you didn't see them for a week and then they showed back up and they were still crying?
Yeah.
No, but I mean
Well,
like the whole
yeah.
time, like
Yeah,
it's
like
like
no stopping.
like no stopping, like 24/7, just like crying, like because that's when you say, "Hey, like I feel like I'll never stop crying," like you will. Like I
Yeah.
mean, there's only so many tears. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
What is
Yeah.
your grief song, Hannah?
For a long time it was the Phoebe Bridgers song that we did in that first episode.
Really?
Yeah. Funeral. That was a big one. Um,
Can I
what's
ask really quick?
hard? Yeah.
Did do you feel like you grew out of that song? Like, because you said it was, is it no longer anymore?
I would say, yeah, it's not like I'm gonna cry so quickly when I listen to this song like it used to be. I think I have different grief songs for different eras. Um,
Yeah.
so there is, I think right now it's True Love Will Find You in the End, which is by, oh, come, my memory sucks. So let me just look up who sings this. Daniel Johnston, who's also the guy that made the frog that says, hi, how are
Oh,
you?
oh.
So I think, right? I'm just sorry. Now I really have to make sure I know what I'm talking about. Daniel Johnston.
Is, is that Daniel or
Yes.
Danielle? Oh, it's
No,
same.
Daniel. It's a dude, Daniel Johnston. Yeah, and he did the frog in Austin. It says, hi, how are you? So he's kind of like this, kitschier uh dude. But yeah, that's a song it's like it's hopeful and it's beautiful, but there's something about it that feels very heartbreaking. And I used to listen to that a lot. Um, when I was in my last relationship that was so brutal and so hard. And I would listen to that song to kind of like as like this reassurance of like true love's going to find you in the end somehow, even if it's not romantic, even if it's just like the day you die, you're gonna finally feel it. But yeah, that would be my go-to one now, I think. But then different songs hit me at different points.
That Phoebe, that original Phoebe Brothers. When you listen to that song now,
Mhm.
is it like that person that was hurting, that you're seeing them exteriorly, like you're looking at them and you don't feel it like you feel it, but you remember,
Mm.
like, man, I was going through it with this person, with this time when you hear that song? I'm just curious.
I think it's a little bit of both. I mean, that song is so sad.
Yeah.
That song, I mean, it could make you cry at any point. But it's both. I haven't listened to it in a minute. I'm sure it could still make me cry. Um, but I definitely, yes, think about like 26-year-old Hannah and how much she was hurting and how convinced she was that things were never going to get better. So it's both. What's hard is, and I know this on many levels, is um, there's this idea that like time heals all wounds and that we're always going to, something that hurts is just going to one day stop hurting. And for me, that's not entirely true. It's like something from the past can always hurt if you bring it forward enough or if you give it airtime. I think that things that have hurt us in the past don't go away. They might change a little bit, or we might have like a more expansive view of it. But for me anyway, it's always possible to tap into old pain if I want to. And I don't know that that's like a bad thing, but it's definitely true.
So when I was listening to this song and then I started crying. I started crying because I started thinking about my divorce,
Mm.
and I didn't know it at the time, but I knew, and not in a mean way. I knew she needed to go.
Mm.
I knew I needed to go, right? But I just couldn't. I
Yeah.
I I, I couldn't pull it together. You know what I'm saying? And then it just like kind of happened, and like having that memory come back up made me cry, but like it was in this whole different way, and kind of like what I was kind of asking you, which was um I wasn't reliving it. It was like I was viewing it from like top down and going
Mm.
like, God, that time for that guy,
Yeah.
which is me, but like sucked.
Yeah, it's the same thing as like watching a sad movie. It's like I'm really sad for these characters. I relate to them deeply as a human. It's not me experiencing it, but I can still feel sad because I'm watching this, you know, profound human experience. And it sounds like you're able to do that with your old self, seeing him as exterior to you or external to
But
you.
but that's not something that I've always done,
Yeah.
right? Does that make sense? And then like, like 3 songs later, when like our first episode, but then like a couple songs later, that song, what I forgot what the title of the song is,
Mm.
but that was my like
Good song. Yeah.
mourning song, right? Like my
Mhm.
grieving song, right? And now when I listen to it, it doesn't feel the same, but there are days and moments where it can like catch me off guard. And then like I like cry about it. But I think the big difference is like I don't feel any shame around that. Like
No.
there's no judgment around that. And I feel like that like when we go like, oh, I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna set up time to grieve. I mean, maybe I could be wrong, but that's a lot of us just judging ourselves
Definitely.
about like what something looks like or something like that. And I just really don't give a shit.
Yeah. We call that the second arrow, which I might have mentioned on the podcast before, but the second arrow in therapy is the thing that we're trying to eliminate. The first arrow that hits you is I'm in pain, something hurts. The second arrow is I'm I'm in pain, so there's something wrong with me, or I hate that I'm in pain. I'm mad at myself that I'm in pain. I'm a wimp because I'm in pain. It's the arrow that we shoot ourselves with. And so the more you're able to get rid of that second arrow and just say like, oh wait, I'm feeling pain over my divorce. Like I'm feeling that memory. And when we say, oh yeah, that makes so much sense. That's okay. That's part of the human experience. It it allows the whole process to kind of change, right, into one where maybe that sad memory isn't causing you so much pain as it is giving you appreciation for the complexity of being alive.
Well,
And
so do you,
yeah, having had all
it,
those experiences.
is it true, like this, would this be a true statement that like the more you take time to grieve that thing, the less it hurts when it comes up on a like a day to day or like hits you out of place or like, you know, just in general the way you hold it.
Yeah.
Is that true or no?
It's hard to say. I don't It's not like a one-to-one correlation, right? And I think it depends how you're grieving it. I think um in my experience, I can't speak for everyone, so everyone grieves differently, blah blah blah. But in my own experience with grief, I think giving it a lot of space and time to just feel the raw emotions akin to that play a song and just like let it all out. But without some kind of like aftercare or some kind of integration after the fact, I think you can just open a wound and then leave it bleeding, and that's not ideal. I think having some way to come back around and um, reframe the way that you're thinking about it, or offer yourself comfort or offer yourself encouragement. I think that's also an important piece. Yeah, you got to feel the raw feelings, but you also have to like parent yourself after that. Kind of the way you would comfort your kid after they cry. You let them cry, right? You don't want to be like, shush, 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 stop, stop, stop. You let them cry, and then you give them a hug, you read them a book, you make them laugh. And I think all those things are also really important for us to give ourselves as adults. Because, yeah, I think if you can, not that you can cry 24/7, but I think you can live in grief in a way that's not healthy.
Oh, 100%.
Right.
I mean, I think a lot of what we're talking about is a lot of people that live in grief that's not healthy.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Whether they're
I feel like
suppressing it or whether they're letting it take over. So
I
you
feel
can
like
be
Phoebe Bridgers lives in a like. I mean, every song is so sad. But
I mean, yeah, she's offering quite a service, I feel like.
does she
She
have
makes
happy
beautiful
songs?
music by going into the depths. There's there's a quote from Lady Gaga where she's like, yeah, it's like you have to go perform open heart surgery to write a good song. I'm like, oof. That's why we've got to be grateful to, but also kind to our artists. Because shush. Because our artists are, yeah, they're plumbing those emotional depths. That's why I love artists are troubled.
How how do you help your clients figure out like this process, this like grieving process?
Oh man. Well, giving them a lot of space to talk about it, especially because most people err on the side of just not talking about it with other people. Um, and there are those who I do feel like are talking about it all the time, but not in a productive way. Like, or they're fixating on it and they're just going around and around and around. And for those people, I do try to um reframe it kind of in that way that I was describing of, okay, so like say that a really good friend of yours was experiencing this same thing. What would you tell them? How would you encourage them? Or if your kid had just gone through this thing that you've been through, how would you treat them? What would you tell them? Um, but man, I think the thing that you as a therapist need to have to cope with grief is a fuck ton of patience because like cognitively I know that grief is it's not linear, right? It comes in waves, it comes and goes. Sometimes it's huge, sometimes it's feels much better. But grief is like a lifelong ongoing process a lot of the time. And so what I have to catch myself not wanting to just hurry that process along and like be like, okay, let's heal this, let's get over this. Because it doesn't work that way. It's not helpful for me to be rushing them. Um, but it speaks to, right, the notion that we as humans, I mean, we want things to just like we want things to just go away. We want our problems to go away. We want it to be like, I'm dealing with it or I'm over it. It's like this black and white thing, as opposed to the fact that grief is nuanced, right? Like you're still able to feel into some sadness around your divorce, even though you've healed from it, but you can still feel the sadness. It could still creep up on you at certain moments. So yeah, I think the greatest thing I can offer people is patience. Patience and validating that this is just a complicated process and there's no like one size fits all way to get through it. And oh man, but yeah, I mean, the whole idea of therapy is having a place where you can take those things that you feels like you can't talk to anyone else about, or it feels too risky to talk to other people about. And so really just opening up the door to have this place where grief gets to just live.
Have you ever had grief hit you unexpectedly in public, and what did you do?
Oh man, yeah, for sure. I mean, one of my favorite books is called How to Weep in Public. Um, let's see. Man, I'm trying to think of a specific time. I know there have been times. Usually I just find a way to leave. I find a way to leave and go be by myself somewhere so I can take care of the grief. Yeah, I'm not, if something's really hitting me, I found that like faking it or like muscling through for me doesn't work. I know that can work for some people. Like, no, like I'm just gonna push through and like put on a brave face. That always like comes around to bite me in the ass later. It just makes it way worse. So I find a way to gracefully exit. What about you?
Um, yes, I didn't always do that. You know what I mean? And I think that probably a lot of the bad experiences that I had with people were me not recognizing like how I was showing up or that something had happened and then not doing something about that because I was just thinking like I've excused myself as straight up like cried in the bathroom
Yeah,
somewhere. You know what I mean?
definitely.
Um and doing that, again, like I've never really been today before today, I've never thought about explaining or talking about this, but like allowing myself to grieve when I step back out of the bathroom, I'm back on. Like
Mm,
it's like a switch flips. Like I don't need to hold on to
yeah.
that's like done. And I think that that's when we talk about like ongoing grieving or like the actual process of grieving, I think that's like the big difference. I mean I have friends that like you know, who am I to tell people how long you should grieve?
Mm,
But when I feel like it's consuming their life or becoming unhealthy for them, then I go, well, what purpose is this serving?
mm, mhm.
Clients, what purpose is what you're doing serving? And is it serving you in a good way? You know what I mean? And are we looking at that,
I'm trying, and I don't want to make like overgeneralizations because yeah, those. But what I found is that when someone is, they have some source of grief and they're blaming someone for it, whether it's themselves or others, but particularly when it's other people, I think it that grief tends to be really prolonged and it's adding this element of anger to it as well, which don't get me wrong, feeling anger, feeling resentment towards other people in the course of grief is super normal and makes a lot of sense. But when someone is like kind of over and over blaming someone, um, especially right if it's someone hurt them in a relationship and just kind of obsessing like why did they do that? What made them do that? What were they thinking? Um, it takes something that is this feeling and then it makes it more into like a brain worm or like a puzzle that your brain wants to solve. And that is really easy to latch onto and makes it really hard to let go of. And so I think the more that they have anger or blame at play, that can really prolong a grieving process. Um, because you're also not really letting yourself feel the deeper thing, which is like usually the sadness. Or maybe some of your own guilt or shame. That's a big thing that no one wants to freaking feel. And so they'll do mental gymnastics to not feel that. But until you kind of get to that layer, it's going to be really hard to resolve the grief. And that is an example. And I know because I've done this myself. Like I've had grief that I just like really, really blamed another person for it. And it does serve you in some way, right? Like kind of to your point of like, how is this serving you to hold on to this? I think it serves you by holding on to something or resenting someone or being angry at someone, because having that blame protects you from having to face something greater, whether that's your own grief or sadness, whether that's maybe something that you did wrong, or just having to reckon with the situation, right? Just having to accept something that really sucks. If we're angry with someone or we're resenting someone, it's almost like there's this part of our brain of like, this could have been prevented, or this could be fixed somehow, as opposed to this like acceptance and letting it go. I don't know if that made any sense, or if the people in your life that there's like this layer of like resentment or anger, because to me that's always like people just have the hardest time letting that go.
I was thinking about when I initially got divorced and like how I felt about my ex-wife at the time, and like, obviously I had resentment and anger and like all those kinds of things, but then always like like a real good time will just pop in your head and you're like, what does that mean? And weirdly, while we're talking, like you were talking, I was thinking I had to resolve in my mind that she could be two people. Like everyone is more than one person, and
100%.
and that she could be two people, and that me having positive memories about positive events is fine, and having negative, feelings about negative events is fine, and neither one of them needs to or has more really weight than the other. You know what I mean? And like that was like because like now as I sit here, like, I don't know how else to say it other than it's fine. It's fine. You know what I mean? Like it got me to hear a lot of what I'm doing is getting me to hear that's just a chapter or a part or whatever,
Yeah. Yeah. And getting there is hard, but it's so much more peaceful. It's actually like a more comfortable place to be when you're able to accept something that hurt you with just kind of grace and understanding for yourself, for the other person. I know we haven't really been talking about like losing someone to death. I think that what's hard about that, I think losing someone to death can feel just so, it's like you can be furious about it, but there's no one to really be angry at other than like God. And I think that's something that we're getting way into the weeds and we don't have time. But like when you're like actually just angry at life itself or angry at God or whatever it is, it's like there's no human being that I can blame for this, but this is untenable. I can't stand this. This is way too painful. And that kind of grief is also like, yeah, that comes down to like reckoning with your own humanity.
Y'all guys, make sure you tune in next week when we talk about being angry at God.
Ooh, that's a good one. Angry at God. Let's do that
and grief and death. If you have something that's mixtape therapy for you, make sure you let me and Hannah know. Hannah, we'll see you next time.
Bye, Scottie. Bye, everyone.
Bye.